and gentlemen, allow me to call up on the stage our next panelist. The topic for our second panel discussion is Trustful Transformation.
So, hi, I'm Vaibhav. I'm co-founder and CEO of TransBnk, career banker, and now, moderating this panel. And I think I would request panelists to again introduce. I think we have the names, but it'll be great if you can hear from us.
Hi everyone, I'm Arjun Krishna. I'm a senior solution architect at GitLab. We're a DevSecOps platform and we work with a lot of companies in the banking industry. So, yep.
Hi all, I'm Himanshu. I handle analytics at Edelweiss, so yeah, that's it.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. This is Vishal, Nagadiya, Head of IT, Western Capital Advisors Private Limited. I had the technology division, the IT division, and I carry more than 19 years of experience. Previously, I was working with another NBFC called NAFA, Net of Agricultural Financing Agency Private Limited. And I had my stints in terms of building technology stacks for various companies. So that's about it. Thank you.
Great. So welcome all. And I think it's been a crazy traffic outside, but it's great to have everybody here. I believe Shubhra should be here any moment in time, but I think we can start. So I think when I started my career, we always saw the businesses or the banking where typically the the CFO function or treasury function used to be at the helm, right? And now I think probably post-COVID, or maybe I don't know whether it is the effect of the overall digitization globally. But I think now what we have seen is the technology teams are the most pivotal or the most central part in most of the NBFCs and banks. Right? That's what I think we have been seeing in most of the interactions. Not because now I'm a fintech and earlier I was a bank. But I think this particular transformation and also the topic about the trustful transformation, I think one thing essentially what has happened is the role of technology has really evolved, right? So I think while we deep dive into the next set of points, I would like to hear from each one of you that how exactly this role has evolved over last, let's say, 3 or 4 years, and especially in the analytics and also the customer service era. Maybe we can start from Himanshu.
Yeah, so since I am in analytics, I like to start from there. The role of data, has been pivotal in today's era, especially today's era, if we term it as the era of AI, it will not be a misnomer. So basically, with the advent of data technologies, processing data, right? So we have technologies available today, which will kind of, if used correctly, will kind of bring a revolution. They are already doing that, but if we look at it deeply, the role of customer analytics, especially in NBFCs, you have 3 or 4 main axes where you see the change, right? So, for example, the first of all, you can use it for customer profiling, which we do, or in fact, many of the NBFCs and financial institutions are doing right now. So they take a customer, put it into, for example, how risky the customer is. Now, from there, you can have quite a few use cases. You can go to, for example, what kind of loan amount you want to give to that customer, to what kind of treatment you want to give to that customer. So starting with the least risky, in fact, the organization may want to take more exposure to that customer. They want to treat that customer well. For example, if a least risky customer comes on the platform, you want his or her experience to be very good so that the customer stays with you. That all happens when we decide that which customer is risky, which customer is non-risky, and that is mainly the core area of analytics, right? The second could be in terms of fraud analytics, real time, right? So, when the customer is making a transaction, you identify at real time whether this transaction is genuine or not. And a lot of companies are actually employing AI tools to kind of detect that fraud. And in fact, I was one of the beneficiaries of that. So when I was abroad, one of the transactions was done on my card. Of course, that was a fraud transaction that didn't go through. And I reached to customer service, and that they said that is tagged as fraud and it didn't go through. So, I mean, it's making an effect on our lives already, and this is a field that is here to stay.
Yeah, Vishal.
So the evolution is basically, I would say, change is always constant, you know. Primarily, every aspect of the doing business has changed, including technology. When I say change, means that, you know, primarily in the past, when we had LOSs, loan origination systems, people used to apply for loans. We had LMSs as well. The legacy systems were there, you know. But the complexity of the situation has changed. We have identified how we can track the fraud cases, you know, how we can analyze the information better. But at the end of the day, what remains constant is customer service at the end of the day, you know, providing the best experience to the customer. To give an example, initially, everybody started moving to cloud, you know, one single cloud environment. And then now the technology evolved, we moved to multi-cloud solutions, you know. And now keeping in mind recent event like a Microsoft event, you know, people have started thinking, you know, should we have a hybrid environment? Some portion of the data information on the cloud, multi-cloud situation, and some on-prem, just to ensure that the business keeps on running. You know, at the end of the day, fundamental principle is that, am I risk averse? Am I able to run the business? Am I able to do the transactions on time? You know, and keeping all those things in mind, the technology evolves. Simple things like identity management, you know. Identity management initially was just login, username, password, but now things have changed. You know, we have single sign-on in place. We have philosophies like Zero Trust Network, ZTNA. This, at the end of the day, I would say it's just the beginning of the evolution. You know, it's the beginning of change. That's how I would say.
So Arjun, from the tech angle, how do you see this evolving for next 5 years?
Yeah, so when anything future AI comes as the first thing, I think everyone's talking about it. I don't think we've had any C-level conversation which didn't mention the word AI. But fundamentally, I think companies want to be able to change quickly. So building new features, making changes, adapting to the market is something everyone's trying to do, and they want to do it quick. To enable that, they also want to make sure any change they make is safe, it's secure, it's not making them more vulnerable. So I think AI, speed of development, and security are three things which are core focus areas which we keep coming across.
Sure. So maybe I'll discuss once again with Himanshu, and I think you mentioned about the interesting aspect of analytics, and I think just before our panel we were having interesting chat about the data points, right? So how do you collect these data points? Which are the different ways and means, and then how do you ensure that these data points are because I think it's transformation. Of course, the entire system now trusts you, right? Earlier the underwriting technically was done by the CRO or the risk team. Now, of course, the tech team is doing underwriting. So how do you trust these ecosystem of, let's say, vendors or data service providers?
Data is bread and butter of analytics, right? So it's a raw material that you put in to get the final output. Now, there are different ways to collect data, and of course, we want to do it ethically and in a transparent way. So in terms of, for example, if a customer comes for a loan, it's a regulatory compliance as well, but we'll have to take consent of the customer that we'll pull your bureau, we'll take your bank statements. I mean, that is one of the ways that we kind of underwrite the customer, right? We have different data sources, right? GST, of course, from 2017 has become a very important data resource for us. So some companies also do social profiling. They will take your Facebook passwords, or they will ask their consent, right, to do a social profiling as well. Different sources. Of course, we'll have to take consent in a transparent manner. And after that, of course, when the data is collected, then all it is to analyze the customer and see how is the customer.
So I think, Vishal, I think a lot has been spoke about the incumbent as well as future, infrastructure, IT infrastructure, you spoke about it, right? So, and I think traditionally, we as a, banker, at least we used to see this as a monolithic structure, LOS, LMS, CRM, How do you see that puzzle getting, structured at your end? And of course, I'm sure you must be interacting with a few more, team members of yours. How that particular thing is evolved in last 5 years, whereas the earlier monolithic architecture is now, in my opinion, moving to microservices-based architecture. But do you see that happening? Do you see that particular effect?
Absolutely. So when you talk about digital transformation, two broad aspects that I would like to categorize into. When an NBFC is getting into a digital transformation, either it's a greenfield project, or a transformation from a legacy system to a new migration to a new system. But at the end of the day, we need to understand the fundamentals. What is it that we want, or how do we want to do a digital transformation, and basis that my architecture or infrastructure will come into play. Now, fortunately, me coming from that background, I've experienced. I've got an opportunity to work in both the kind of scenarios wherein I had to transform, I had to migrate to a newer system, from a monolithic architecture to a microservices architecture, and starting a greenfield project. It's a different ballgame altogether. What also matters is what kind of customers you're trying to service. So in a customer wherein you say tier 1 cities, if you're servicing tier 1 cities, 100% digital transformation really makes sense. But we don't live in, we live in three kinds of India, as people say. One is a tier 1 city wherein the people are used to digital stacks, But we also live in the country wherein tier 3, tier 4 environments wherein people are not so tech savvy. So my technology architecture will actually be defined, or how I solve this is going to be basis what my customer type is, what situation I am in right now, whether I'm migrating, I'm not migrating. We also need to ensure, how scalable the systems are, So at the end of the day, the newer technologies have to ensure that they talk to other systems, So when I choose a new technology, new system, I need to ensure that it is scalable, it is secure, it is able to talk to other systems. Now, when I talk about migrating, there are at times that we are not able to solve that as well. So we, as an architect, we also need to involve other solutions in place as well, like a middleware system, which can have an API architecture while at the same time talk to the legacy systems as well. So net, all in all, keeping scalability in mind, flexibility in mind, also we need to ensure that security is in place. So because it's a microservices architecture, everything is an API-driven solution. And when I think of security, I need to ensure that even the API is secure. The security is at the level of APIs, at the transaction level. Whether the API is accessible by the systems with the right user, with the right access, with the right API accesses, right integration, all those come into play. And when a user tries to interact with a system, technologies or frameworks like ZT, Zero Trust Network, that also needs to be taken care of. Having said that, we also need to ensure that the systems are compliant as per the RBI regulations. This is the foundation of everything. So if it's not regulated, if it's not compliant, then our choices are wrong. That's how I would take it. So these are all things that we need to take care of from the infrastructure perspective when it comes to choosing the right technology.
So I think you mentioned about information security a couple of times, and I believe Arjun is here representing. I also see you're a DevSecOps partners, right? So what do you think the global tools or certifications like SOC 2 or ISO, how crucial those are, and how cost effective those are, right? Because I think if you look at the NBFC business and if you look at the long tail of the NBFCs, a lot of times what we see is implementing these information security aspects, right, is a challenge, right? And of course, it's essential. We've heard that from both Himanshu and Vishal. But you know, what's that cost angle? And whether these SOC 2 or ISO are really that mandatory thing? What do you think?
Yeah, I think we need something as a guideline to work towards. So if there were none of these, then we would not know where to go and everyone would create their own. But also, when you start to create a generic form and put that as a blanket over everyone, it could be a bit more cumbersome. So we look at some customers who look at it as a guideline and then modify it for themselves, depending on regulatory compliance, cost, things like that. Creating like reusable frameworks for these, because open source, we create a lot of things which are getting up to date as these standards keep changing. So we encourage customers to contribute to open source, contribute to common standards for maintaining these things. So it's easier to do and you're not reinventing the wheel every time. That's one way we look at it. Yeah, like a lot of software and security vendors are building some of these things into the platform, which also helps our customers, and that's something our customers keep asking for. Are you compliant on this as a platform? And what automation do you have in place so that I can run these things within my environment? Again, there's no silver bullet for everything, but at least a starting point to then go and customize themselves is something which we work towards.
Great. And what about the cost angle? And do you think it's really affordable for the long tail of the NBFCs? I understand the upper layer and middle layer NBFC would definitely have that kind of IT infrastructure budget. But you're talking about IT infrastructure, the core systems like LOS, LMS, and then analytics, and then of course such a vast implementation of DevSecOps. You know, do you think it's becoming affordable, or do you think that space needs to be democratized?
Yeah, historically, I think cost of implementing has always been a challenge. And by the time you start implementing something, there's changes, and then you need to start working on it again. I think, as technology vendors, are trying to bring that cost down by not having you guys reinvent the wheel every single time. And I think it's going down, but I don't know, you guys might know better in actual implementations and what you guys have felt when you've gone through that cost exercise.
Yeah, I think at least I do believe that this space, of course, is getting disrupted by some of the players, and I'm sure some of the solutions are experienced by them. But I think moving back to our core topic of trustful transformation, Himanshu, maybe I think we all spoke about how this entire set of activities help the NBFCs or help the lenders, right? What about the customer experience? When you are pulling a particular data, there is suddenly I get a message that this 1 rupee has been dropped into your bank account. Suddenly I get a message that somebody has pulled your CIBIL. So there's a huge hue and cry out there in the market, and as an individual customer, I have actually experienced that. I'm sure a lot of the panelists, participants over here would have experienced that. So how does the analytics or the core teams take care of that aspect, right? Because ultimately we are serving the end retail customer or SME customer. So when he gets that information, how do you ensure, how you can ensure, how any NBFC can ensure that the customer experience is also kept intact? There's no surprise element.
From analytics point of view, of course, from the organization point of view, customer experience is something that most of the companies are really focusing in now. From my own practical example, only from customer experience point of view, if I do a purchase on Amazon, get an SMS, I get a WhatsApp, I'll get an email, I'll get an email again when the product has left their warehouse, when the product is to be delivered. So for a single purchase, even I think I'll get maybe 8 or 10 customer interactions. So probably that is not desired. I mean, that's my personal opinion, but I mean, from the analytics, how it can help in customer experience, I mean, it's very visible. So if a customer is deserving, first of all, we have to see that the customer is deserving or not through analytics, of course. If the customer is deserving, we want to make their process as seamless as possible. If a customer is deserving, probably he'll do maybe 4 or 5 clicks on an app and he should get a loan in his account. So that is what the end state or the desired state could be. I mean, of course, we'll want to keep the customer informed at all times what is the state of the application. For example, if he's applying for a loan, right? If he's rejected, if he's sanctioned, when the money is deposited into account. So I mean, we'll have to have a balance between, I mean, over clarification or over information to the customer, or to keep customer informed only at the relevant intervals, right? So that is my personal view. I mean, taken from my own experience of placing an Amazon order, right? So similarly, in the loan, I mean, loan is also a product for the customer, which the customer wants to avail. So we'll have to decide. I mean, of course, there are people in the market whose speciality is in customer experience. They will design your journeys. They will design the LOS systems, at what point the customer interaction is needed. And of course, I mean, if you go into a behavioral aspect of the analytics, if the customer is coming to your app, what is he clicking, what is not clicking, what is the relevant information that needs to be shown to the customer. For example, you have pop-ups, right, from various apps. Inside the app, that there is also a pop-up for probably offer for you, a pre-approved or pre-qualified offer that you can avail. So from analytics point of view, we have to decide exactly what information the customer is interested in. And that is what needs to be shown to the customer and nothing else, right? So that is what decision point we as analytics make by use of data.
And I think we spoke about the customer experience, and we of course spoke about the analytics. But I think the most important part to which this is central or to the core is the risk management, right? And again, at the cost of repetition, the organization now looks at tech as the risk instead of the credit, right? So what are different type of risk management tools? What typically we see? Maybe we can hear from you, Vishal. Do you look at some of the existing established tools, or do you want to create your own model to take care of the risks? It could be credit risk, it could be operational risk, it could be market risk. But what is the overall organization view in your existing and past experience? And maybe then I can hear once again from Edelweiss perspective also, or as an organization perspective also from Himanshu also.
Thank you. So risk management, fundamentally remains the same. Even though technologies evolve with the use of AI, ML, but at the end of the day, the technologies that we use or implement, be it a machine learning model or an AI solution, the solution should bring in transparency, and it should have interoperability. And one of the most used words is explainability. So when I'm using a model, the model should be able to explain, how the information has been processed, how the data has been processed. Same goes for in terms of the transparency. So even in past the systems, when I talk about risk management in terms of, there are two risk management, one is internal and one is external. What really primary facie, what matters is, every data point that we are able to collect or process, there needs to be a trail for it, The source of truth has to be available. we should be able to trace it to the right, source of truth, which means that there has to be an audit log, So even when I'm evolving on, when we are choosing the latest technology, I should have the same principles is what I believe on. That will help me mitigate both the internal as well as external risks as such. At the also, I would like to add that we should adopt the technology faster in terms of, because the world is changing. The way we are processing the loans is changing. Initially, there was a lot of paper trail in terms of, when the borrower used to apply for a loan. Now we are into a digital journey. So we need to ensure that when the borrower is applying for the loan, as an example from an NBFC perspective, we ensure that we are giving the loan to the right person, right borrower. So my fraud risk mitigation should be at the level of KYC as well, At the same time, I should also do my risk prevention while I'm doing underwriting as well. So in the panel, we rightly discussed that now the underwriting is taken care of by the technology, by the systems, So the systems we need to ensure that the systems is taken care of in terms of the biases. So when we use ML models, there is a risk of biasness as well. So we need to have checks and balances in place wherein we are taking care of the biases as well. Along with that, security is also one point of risk. So when we are exposing the systems to multiple systems integration, we need to ensure that our policies and processes are set in such a way that our risk is contained. In terms of compliance as well, again, as I said, fundamentals and principles will remain the same, no matter what the technology advancement. Maybe tomorrow, 5 years down the line, we'll have technologies which will be more capable of finding the right, identifying the right frauds, identifying, simple cases like, we now have, we keep on collecting a lot of geolocations, geotags. Can we not identify if the borrower is actually making the payment to my representative in cash and my representative is depositing the money into the bank account? Can I identify that via geolocation? Answer is yes. It's a simple mechanism. So yeah, that's how I would say. Thank you.
So I think, let me just tweak the question and make it easier for you. I think the idea is when we are developing something, and I have always had that dilemma as a banker, as a technology guy, as a founder, right? One, of course, is a business organization's business goal. And second is, of course, the risk management, right? I'm not getting into the regulatory frameworks, but as he mentioned, the sacrosanct core credit risk or operational risk. So when you're actually working or when you're using these analytics, how does this particular decision is taken typically? And does the analytics team have a play over there?
So to take the point ahead which Vishal made about the explainability of the model or putting another layer over what the model gives, right? I mean, we can see it with the AI tools as well. So if you build, for example, ChatGPT, right? A lot of resources from OpenAI side go to probably taming the model that they have created. So they have to put a lot of effort in, for example, doing away with the ethical considerations, or you can say, I mean, putting a layer of ethical considerations on the model output. So similarly, I mean, on a very smaller scale, when we make a model, we try to see that the model is explainable. Typically, there are quite a few techniques that you can build a model in. So quite a few techniques are black box. So you never know what is going on inside. Although the output you will get will be good, I mean better than the other models, but typically we resist using those models because the explainability of the model is not there. So we prefer models which are kind of explainable. So if I go to business, they will ask exactly what kind of profile this model is giving, I mean, the output is there, right? So the profiles that are there, the model is saying that, okay, these are good customers. What kind of profiles are there? So that explainability needs to be there. So of course, if we go to the policy teams with the models that we have created, they will overlay their own business experience. And that's how we all work in tandem to kind of remove the biasness, inherent biasness in any of the models that we make.
So I think probably then we will move to the next topic, which is getting linked, right? So while we spoke about the organizations or NBFC's goals and of course the customer experience perspective, I think one of the most critical part today in any business, not only NBFCs, any business is of course the regulatory framework, right? And I think a lot has been said, and of course in India we've got a very responsible regulatory framework, be it RBI, be it SEBI, be it the mutual fund AMFI and all, right? So I think when it comes to lending, I think and on top of that, we have seen a lot of these compliances or regulations coming into the picture. Rightly so. But I think what it does is it gives suddenly the entire plan, what you have planned as a technology or as an analytics team, you must have planned something for the entire year. And suddenly it gives you the jolt, right? You need to implement something ASAP. Sometimes the timelines are crazy, right? I have seen some guidelines to be implemented ASAP, right? Maybe with effect due to tomorrow's date. And I think that is, of course, becoming the norm now, rightly so again. But that, of course, takes toll. And maybe I'll start with Arjun. How do you think the support ecosystem or the support platforms, like yours or any other platforms, enables or helps the lenders or NBFCs to cope up, to cope with this, scenarios? And as a banker, we have seen that quite often now it is moving to NBFCs and fintechs also. So I think the role what you guys are playing, of course, is becoming crucial. But what is it that the platform design or platform architecture should have so that these implementations or these compliance implementation, or let's say DPDP, whatever it comes to the table, it's taken care of?
Yeah, I think what we have seen as an evolution is time from ideation to time to delivery has shortened over time. And also the amount of change you're bringing about in that particular release is getting smaller. So we believe in the concept of iterate, and iterate, which is put out the smallest minimal viable feature out there, but do it quick. Go from releasing once a month to once a day to several times a day. For that, you need automation in place. If you have a lot of manual processes, guardrails are important, but a lot of manual processes, you need to coordinate with people, you need to do things synchronously with people. That's not going to happen within minutes. So we enable technology to be able to make changes really quick. Another assistant to make changes quick is, of course, AI. We spoke about that. We speak about generating code, generating change, and having an AI assistant to help you on that, but also making sure that it's secure. For example, you might ask code suggestion to say, write this feature out for me, my business is asking for this, it'll create a framework, it'll put it out there. But are we sure where it got that data from? Are we using someone else's code? Is there licenses? Is there security vulnerabilities which we have introduced without even realizing it? Is an important consideration as we try to go quick. So building security again, at every time you make even a single line of code, if security can be shifted left and checked and you get a feedback right to the developer within a few seconds, then I think that helps them move faster.
Okay, and I think just to continue with that, Himanshu, I think typically these are the important platforms, but I think ultimately the onus is on the entire core team, right? And of course, whether the implementation has happened or not happened, Do you guys see the role of AI actually in this coming up? Of course, it's becoming necessary, but I haven't honestly seen a lot of implementations in the real world, right? What do you think? Whether it will really come in next couple of years, or it's going to take some more time?
So if the grapevine is to believe, if you believe that in next 5 years, you will know, you will remember this moment and say that, okay, we used to say this about AI and now AI has changed the game forever, right? So, I mean, a lot of investment is now going into AI worldwide. You can see the statistics for the last year as well. So some billions of, or in fact 50-60% of the investments in technology platforms is into AI, right? So people are believing that, and I think the hype is real. Being from data analytics background, I know what power it has, right, to change the existing systems that are there. Coming from a regulatory aspect, of course, these AI systems need to be governed, or in fact any of the technology systems need to be governed from the compliance perspective. I mean, especially in data side, we need to be compliant that, okay, we are obtaining data in a transparent manner with the consent of the customer. And that's where, for example, new platforms like account aggregator, of course, it's a new, not a new platform, but it's gaining traction now. So, I mean, the customer is aware that his data is being used and how it is being used. And that's where, I mean, currently the compliance guidelines or the regulation guidelines say that, okay, you have to inform the customer so that he can make an informed decision, right, whether to give you data or not. Also, the data is controlled by the customer itself. So, customer can say that, okay, this is it, I want to stop my data access to you, and that is in his power to do, right? So, they can say, okay, till this time you were taking my data, that was okay, but from now onwards, I'll not give you my data. That is also possible from, I mean, the platforms that are there, especially account aggregators, which employ a very good consent mechanism, right? So, in that sense, the new systems or the new data sources that are coming, those have compliance or regulatory guidelines built in. And that kind of makes our job easier to kind of see that, okay, the platform is compliant and we need not worry about much about the regulatory framework or regulatory aspect of that.
So we have a quick couple of minutes. Vishal, so I think Himanshu is saying that AI is there. So what do you think?
It is definitely there. I concur. So I would say when it comes to implementing AI, what's the intent of implementing? What is also what matters. Choosing the right product also matters, and nowadays it's fairly easy to compare the products and choose the right product and implement the same. So I would say when it comes to compliance management, I would still go back by my own standards in terms of having the checklist. Is this met? Is this met? Yes, it is good to have a compliance solution as well, in place, which will help you manage and mitigate the new solutions that you implement. At the end of the day, you need to ensure that you're doing the right thing for the customer and you're doing the right thing for your own organization while ensuring that the business thrives. Which means that you need to ensure that the solutions that you implement are also, you take care of the disaster recovery processes, you take care of the business continuity, and while you are connecting the multiple endpoints, ensure that we take the services of solutions like GitLab, in terms of ensuring that even though if you have to implement something immediately, it is a seamless pipeline management wherein you are able to deploy the fixes and you are able to deploy the enhancements faster, thereby innovating faster and reaching your goals faster.
Superb. I think thanks everyone. Thanks Arjun, Himanshu, and Vishal. I think it's been a great panel discussion, and I think we covered a lot of aspect about the entire life cycle of the trustful transformation. And of course, we ended on a very high note that AI is there, and look forward to, of course, a chat with you. I don't know whether we are open for any more questions or up to you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, as we have a couple of minutes left in our hand, I would want to know if you have any questions for our respective panelists. Kindly please raise your hand over here. I would request you, sir, to please introduce yourself and to whom your question is. Can we pass on the mic, please?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Saurabh. I'm a part of financial services at BDO, happen to be ex-Sibyl, so I have a little bit of a background in data analytics. My question is for Himanshu. Himanshu, you mentioned about the account aggregator ecosystem. You spoke about customer consent. In the past, there have been large databases on which you can build models, right? But the future, with privacy laws evolving, is going to be about a record being accessed with customer consent only, and also the need for that record to possibly be purged after that end use is done, right? Which basically means we will in the future have no longer access to millions of records and large databases to build models on. So do you feel the core of data modeling is going to change and it'll be about modeling in flow rather than on data at rest?
I mean, that's an interesting question. I mean, I'm just thinking if we have to purge historical customer data, which you said could happen, how will the models evolve? Of course, I mean, from analytics perspective, we will want historical data to be there, but as you said, if it is not available, then of course we can have the lessons from it, like the core essence of the data available with us. I mean, we can anonymize the data and keep it. I mean, then the customer will not be able to say that, okay, you have kept their data. However, there could be models which are trained on historical data. The models retain their learning, and then we build models on top of that. So in those terms, the lessons or the analytics models are there. We will just retrain the models with the old knowledge that we have and not have the records that are there associated with the customer.
Thank you, Himanshu. Ma'am, may I go with another quick question?
So I'm so sorry because we have to take other questions as well.
Please.
But if there's any other questions from anyone else, if not, then we can take sir's question. Okay, sir. Go ahead.
My next question is for Vishal. Vishal, you spoke about AI being very much omnipresent now. For risk modeling, of course, right now there's a little bit of a trust deficit that the regulator has. These are not auditable models, it's like a black box, right? However, in financial services, there is, of course, a lot of talk about AI being deployed for consumer engagement, for suggesting intelligent, let's say, intelligent suggestion of products which might be suited to their needs. I think you also alluded to something of that sort. Given that all the large language models today, if you were to leverage them for consumer engagement, they're all privately held. Nothing has been blessed by either the government or the regulator. Do you feel there is a risk to at least those consumer engagement use cases using AI?
Actually, yes. So, just covering a little bit in terms of the risk management, I see in the next 5 years happening a fusion of two different technologies like AI and blockchain, which could solve a lot of problems for us, So what is happening in AI is it's a black box for a lot, but vice versa in blockchain technology, it's a decentralized validation mechanism. Along with that, the data is immutable. So if we are able to find a solution which is a mix of both, while I'm running a language model and the results, I'm able to store it as an immutable data for running the entire underwriting process or accessing the customer's data, that would really solve for the problem for this entire industry. So that's how I would take it, and that's how I think the industry is moving towards. Some solution has to be there in place which would solve both the scenarios.
Can we give mic to Manoj, sir?
Thank you for a very interesting discussion. The lending sector and particularly the NBFC sector is peculiar in one aspect compared to regular businesses like selling pizzas or travel or whatever, that you have to get money back from the customer. It's not about just making a transaction, but there's a part 2 to the transaction. And I'm curious about analytics and AI playing a role in making that aspect more effective. Particularly, not in the regular cases, but particularly when there's a crisis, like a COVID is one example. So when something like COVID or a black swan happens, we go back to human intelligence. Can we expect to rely on analytics and AI in such extreme situations, in border cases as opposed to the mainstream cases? What is your expectation on evolution of AI for extreme cases? Whether it's recovery, whether it's whatever, Is progress happening in that area?
So I'm not sure if black swan cases can be accurately modeled in any of the analytic models that we do. I mean, we expect normal behavior to continue, and that is where analytics can find trends and patterns into historical data and give you an output. And black swan events, by definition, happen once in a century. I'm not sure. I may have to read on that, but it's difficult to answer your question at this point of time. If black swan events can be predicted, right?
Not predicted, handled. I'm saying, is there AI scope for AI to do something when something out of the way happens?
We can.
Or it's all manual?
Depending upon the situations, we'll definitely be able to find that AI, in particular situations, will do a better job than probably a manual work. But that will be very situation specific.
Can't you do simulations or something, if the interest rate goes up 5%, if connectivity goes down across half the country, if whatever,
Those simulations are, a part of course, the risk management that, as you said, right, if inflation, for example, doubles, what will happen? So those are there, but black swan by definition is something that cannot be predicted or envisaged. So that is my take on it.
Okay. Vishal, do you have one point?
I'm sorry, I don't think so right now. We've reached that scale. Primarily the resource, AI models are also resource hungry. And I see a black swan event like this wherein we don't have resources to run the models as such in terms of, But yes, as of now, I don't see that there are models available which can help us mitigate this event like this as of today. But it's a good thought. We should definitely think about it.
Because in the morning panel, CEO panel discussion, this point did arise.
It's a good thought.
Okay.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks once again.
Yes, thank you so much.